Yay! Okay. What's up? What's up? Podcast number 58, Wes Larson. Did anybody recognize that video or recognize the name or maybe recognize his tag on Twitter or Instagram? Void with $100 and Conch with 24. Some yeses, some no's. So Wes has been on our podcast before. Botox with $100. Thank you so much. Holy crap. $224. So we're talking to Wes Larson, who's a bear biologist who has been on the podcast before. And your donations today, Warber, thank you for the 20, are going to support Wes's new podcast, which is called the Tooth and Claw Podcast. Has really, really interesting stories about animal attacks, but he makes it very clear that those attacks are usually because of human error. So while he tells really, really cool stories about what happens in the wild between humans and wildlife, Koopa Steve was $77. Thank you so much. He also teaches people how they can live alongside wildlife and how to appreciate wildlife in that podcast. So, $322.09. I want you guys to understand that the donations today, MLaw, thank you for the $10, are not going to a nonprofit organization like they normally are, so your donations will not be tax deductible, but they are going into the production costs for, James, thank you for the 5, for Wes's podcast, and he'll tell us lots about that, okay? James, thank you for the 5. Same shirt. It's a sweatshirt, man. What do you expect? Tipsy Nomad with $50. Thank you. Okay, so a couple things for the podcast. I assume pretty much all of you have been here before. If you haven't been here, it's like an hour-long conversation. There will be a quiz at the end of the podcast based on the question, or based on my conversation with Wes. And the quiz is 5 questions. You get 20 seconds per question. And the way you win the quiz is by getting questions right and getting them right really fast. If you're not already subbed to my channel, if you win the quiz, you get a gifted sub to my channel. If you are already subbed, then you get a gifted sub to another channel of your choice. Or you can ask me to donate an additional $5 to the Tooth and Claw podcast. I'm really excited to talk about it. Seriously, you can do Command Org to get to the podcast on Instagram. It's a really good listen. I was listening to it all morning. It's super entertaining. Casey, thank you for the 20. So, also, if you guys have questions for Wes, this conversation is probably going to be all over the place. He has so much crazy life experience. So we're just going to have a really fun conversation. If you have questions about his experience working with bears or just about being, Voyage, thank you for the $10. About being in the great outdoors. Today is your day. You can do #ask followed by your question. Cindy, thank you for the $10 and whiskey with the $50. $467. I think your room is getting smaller. That's not true. Okay. Am I missing anything? I know it's a relatively quick intro. I feel like I went live late. I don't know why I'm rushing. I went live a minute late because we were having tech issues, but it felt like longer. So, never mind. We're good. We have like 5 minutes here. Danza, thank you for the 25. I would donate, but I'm poor. That is totally fine. I also want to emphasize, you do not have to donate if you're watching this podcast. Watching anything on Twitch is free. But if you're here watching, I really appreciate it. We're gonna get to talk about some really cool stuff today, and learn about some cool stuff. And you being educated is what this podcast is for. It's not about you being here to throw your money. Sarah, thank you for the $5. But if you are donating, much appreciated. That helps our guests a lot, and it's very generous of you to do that. So thank you. We had our $500 goal, $507.09. Amazing. What else do I have to say about today? We know nothing. You know what? I do tell my guests before every podcast, like, you can assume that they don't really know much about what we're talking about, especially if they're biologists or researchers or stuff, or whatever. But you guys have learned a lot, especially the people that are here all the time. You don't either. I was thinking about that this morning, Riz. Actually, we'll have a conversation about that probably tomorrow when I'm on stream, but today's not the day for it. All right, we are Twitch researchers. Great. So, I think that's it for today. Again, if you have a question, #ask followed by your questions. Cheetah, thank you for the $5. Wes has been here before. He knows what's up. So this will be a really chill, good podcast. I'm super excited to feature him again. He was great. And this podcast that he's producing is also great. So I will see you guys in a second. I'll be back with Wes. Am I missing anything? Does everybody have their paper and pen? Is everybody taking notes? The poll! Again, not sure if this is the podcast for a poll. Yeah, we're going to skip the poll again this week. Polls are going to be for species-specific podcasts. While Wes is a bear biologist, I don't know that this... Drizzy with $200 said bears are my fave. Poll is not meaningless. The poll is actually fantastic data for myself and for guests. Rigby with $100. Holy cow. Okay. No poll today. Get your questions ready. Get your pen and paper ready. I will be back with Wes in a minute. Cool? All right. Peace.
Maya? Good, how are you?
Pretty good. Okay, let's get everything working. This is not the one that I want to be on. Chad, I know I'm unmuted. We have raised, Wild, thank you for the $10, $822 already for your podcast. All right, we have Wes here on his phone, guys, because wait, what is it too loud? What's too loud? Nothing? We're good? Okay. Oh, my camera. Whoops.
Yeah, I can't see you for some reason.
No, you won't be able to see me, but you'll be able to hear me during the podcast, and they can see both of us.
Cool.
So, hi, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me back.
It's not often that we have returning guests, but I'm super excited because the last one went super well.
I'm honored to be a returning guest.
Yay! You want to introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about your podcast and what they're donating for? That would be awesome.
Yeah, so my name's Wes Larson. Pretty much on all my socials, I'm GrizzKid. I am a wildlife biologist. I've been doing wildlife work since 2011, mostly specializing in bears, but I've been really lucky. I've gotten to work with African wild dogs, with sea turtles, with pangolins, with a lot of different species. I'm currently working on a golden eagle project in Utah.
That's right. I saw you post about that. How cool.
Yeah, I know that's right up your alley, doing some bird work. But yeah, and then as far as the podcast goes, it's called Tooth and Claw. It's a podcast that I recently started. It's also the other host of my little brother and our friend Mike. We talk about different animal attacks. My specialty throughout the time I was working with bears has been on human wildlife conflict and like attacks and a bunch of other different kind of aspects of that. And so we're looking at attacks, and it kind of has a comedy vibe to it, but also some real science. And we talk about, what you can do to prevent an attack or a run-in with an animal that could end up with, any kind of injuries or whatever.
For sure. Yeah, and I so appreciate that concept too, because when I found out about I'm unmuted. Sorry, hold on. When I found out about your podcast, I was a little confused because I was like, I don't want people demonize the animals or to be scared of wildlife. And then I listened to your first podcast, and within the first couple minutes I was like, oh, okay, cool, because everybody wants to hear the stories, these crazy stories of animal and human conflict, but you make it super, super clear that it's human error and how to prevent those attacks and how we can live like alongside wildlife, and I really, really appreciate that.
Totally. Yeah, that's the goal of it. I mean, I think we all grew up with those shows that were on Animal Planet or whatever, where they really make it seem like all these animals are bloodthirsty and man-eaters. And even watching them today, they still have that same kind of vibe because it's so sensational and it's what draws people to that. But that's not the case. It's almost always the person's making some kind of mistake, or the person isn't prepared to be around that animal. Like if you go hiking in Montana in the backcountry and you don't have bear spray, you're making a huge mistake. You're the one that's taking that risk,
right, and
it's not the animal that's making the mistake. So yeah, that's the point, is to make sure that we can tell the stories that everyone wants to hear, in a way that we're not demonizing the animal.
Yeah, absolutely. Milky tip $5. Thank you. So we're at $827.09, which is awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about what these donations will go to specifically? Like, do you guys have production costs or...
Yeah, we're like just getting started. We've been around for a few months, so we're already pretty deep in debt as far as a podcast can go. We had to buy all our equipment. The reason I'm on my phone today is because my computer is like on its last legs.
Yeah,
and it's
we were struggling in the test call.
Yeah, it's a very important tool when you're doing the actual podcasting or when you're doing the research or whatever. So a lot of it's going to go towards just better gear for us, better audio quality. And then we're also trying to just come up with some new ways to market the podcast and get people involved. So yeah, all that money is going to go towards, it's truly every cent of it is going to go towards buying all that stuff and getting us out of debt.
Great. That's awesome. So chat, thank you for your donations so far. And thank you for being here. We're already at 2.3 thousand viewers, which is amazing. This podcast has grown quite a bit since the last time you were on here. So I'm glad to be talking to all of you. Okay, so if you don't mind, lots of questions have already come up. So if you want to I think this is how we did it last time, but if you want to just jump into answering some of these questions, I think that'd be the best way to start. Okay, well, this is a fun one. So Tapso asked, what is the best thing about being a wildlife conservationist?
You know what? For me, it's field work. I absolutely love being in the field. And you do decide you want to get into wildlife biology, you should be ready for a lot of office time. Most biologists are going to be writing papers and grants and doing anything you can to get the money that you need to actually do your project. But for me, the best part is definitely being in the field. And if I'm lucky enough to be on a project where I actually get to capture and handle animals, that's obviously like a really fun, rewarding part of the job.
For sure. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm scrolling through your Instagram right now. Showing them pictures of some of your field work. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is what I was going to say on our test call, but I was like, no, I'll save it. DL, thank you for the $5 donation. You got to meet up with Hillary, Hanky, and Paige Davis, and I'm so jealous. I'm like obsessed with them. I've never connected with them before, but guys, Hillary Hanky, she's Avian Behavior International. She's a bird trainer, and they do really awesome stuff out there. And you and your girlfriend got to go hawking with them.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we need to connect you with them because they're so cool.
Please. Oh my gosh, I would fangirl so hard.
Yeah, so Hillary, I'm sure, but she's kind of like one of the people when it comes to training birds.
For sure.
And she's done a lot of work with different zoos and with different bird shows. And then she has kind of her own little aviary. I got to go meet a bunch of her birds, and she has toucans and African crowned cranes and ground hornbills and all these like kind of like birds that I'd never seen up close. So it was so fun meeting her. And then her partner actually breeds snakes as well, and I'm a big herp person.
That's
too.
right.
Yeah.
How
So
cool.
it was so neat. And we went out with one of her birds, Tig, and it was a red tail, and we flew Tig around a little bit. And I don't know. We need to hook you two up because I can see you guys being good friends.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Ronson tipped $100 and Odin tipped $20. So thank you guys so much. That's $952. We are so close to that 1K goal, and we've asked one question so far. So that's great. Okay, Dixie asked, how'd you get the idea for this podcast and what started it all? You kind of talked about this a little bit, but
Yeah, I've like human wildlife conflict is really what fascinates me more than anything.
mm-hmm.
And I think learning about attacks, like growing up, I just had so many attack books, and it's all I read was like bear attacks and shark attacks and all these different things. And then they didn't scare me though. It didn't make me feel like I couldn't go in the water or go in the mountains or whatever. I felt like I learned so much from them on what I could do to prevent those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the question so often from people like, oh, I'm terrified of bears. What can I do to protect myself when I'm in the wilderness? And it always makes me so sad when people say that, because you don't need to be terrified.
Mm-hmm.
There's full things that you can do to prepare yourself, and then you can really enjoy your time in the outdoors. You can really, you see a bear, you can enjoy that experience. And that's what I want, is for people to have that kind of experience and have it be something that's really meaningful to their lives rather than something that's terrifying.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of bears, a couple questions come in that are the same, but Leonard has asked, what kind of bear is best? But I think the question is really like, what's your favorite type of bear?
Yeah, it's really hard for me to pick a favorite. I've worked with polar bears, with grizzly bears, with black bears, and most recently with sloth bears, which are an Indian species of bear, like becoming a new favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, I'm going to say sloth bears, even though it's like picking a favorite child for me.
This is just jogging my memory about us talking about dancing bears on the last podcast.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, we raced for Wildlife Festival West last.
That's correct. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I got to go out there and work with those bears, and they are so charismatic and funny. And most bears, they use their nose as their main way to navigate the world, and they're constantly have their nose up in the air, and they're testing the air to see what's going around. And then sloth bears mostly eat insects, so they're just constantly with their nose on the ground, and they just look like little vacuum cleaners searching for termites and stuff. And they're just really cute. I just really just like grew to love them so quickly.
Yeah, it's such a funny looking bear. I'm going through a bunch of pictures right now with chat. Another Grizz tipped $5.60. Thank you. Okay, cool. So lots of attack questions. I think people want to know, a lot of people have asked if you've ever been attacked by a bear.
Well, good question. So for part of my black bear study, I had to go into black bear den in the winter, and I would adjust their collars, put new batteries in their GPS collars, or do whatever I could to get like a quick medical check on the bear. Bears aren't true hibernators, so they go into what's called a torpor, which they can come out of really quickly. So when I would crawl into the dens, they would typically wake up, and sometimes they're pretty unhappy with this human that's crawling into their den in the middle. So I've had bears in their dens like bite me before. I got my shoe, once one bit onto my boot real hard and shook it around a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
And then I've had like a cub bite me. But that's like, as far as like a full-on attack, like a mauling, luckily it never happened to me, and it's because I really take a lot of precautions for that not to happen.
Yeah. Jateau with $20 and Leonard with $10. Thank you so much. Okay, and then going off of that, so what are the real tips for avoiding a bear attack or minimizing injury during a bear attack?
Great. Yeah, I'm glad we get to talk about that, because it's really my bread and butter. But if you don't mind, I'll just go over the 3 North American species really quick.
Great. Yeah, please.
So black bears are the ones that most of your audience is most likely to counter. Black bears, you don't ever play dead. So like, get that out of your head right now. With the black bear, it's only going to make physical contact with you and attack you if it's a predatory bear. It's super rare. It hardly ever happens. But if a black bear is like stalking you, if it's being really quiet and stalking you, that's the bear you have to be really cautious around. If you come upon a black bear that's like doing this big display where it's charging you and swatting the ground and making like a noise,
Mm-hmm.
that's trying to get you away. It's not trying to attack you. It's not going to make contact with you. But the ones that are like following and that more predatory display,
Mm-hmm.
that's only real kind of black bear that's going to attack people. And in that case, you have to fight it off with whatever you've got, because it is trying to eat you. So with a black bear, you do want to fight back. Now with a grizzly bear, they're very different in that they're extremely territorial, extremely aggressive, and a lot of times when they attack people, they're simply trying to neutralize a threat.
Mm-hmm.
So if you surprise, like, for example, a mother with cubs, she just says, she sees you as a threat, and it's like, okay, I'm going to, neutralize this threat, and then I'm going to get out of here with my cubs. Now, unfortunately for us, that can be, like, pretty violent. Like,
Right.
a grizzly bear, a threat, they're using their claws, they're using their teeth, and it kills people. So if you're in grizzly bear country, you want to have bear spray with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's an incredible tool. It works really well, and it stops those kind of attacks. They do occasionally eat people as well. So if a grizzly bear does attack you and it's on top of you, you want to play dead and just hope that it stops, because it's probably just trying to neutralize you. But if you're like in your campsite or something and one attacks you, it might be trying to eat you.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, you have to fight back. Finally, polar bears. If any of you are lucky enough, polar bear country, they're the only carnivorous bear that's purely carnivorous.
Mm-hmm.
If a polar bear comes at you, it's trying to eat you, and you better have bear spray or a gun or something that's going to stop it, because if you don't, it's going to eat you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. I should have asked you when you were talking about each species specifically, but can you tell us a little bit about like size or weight?
Yeah.
On the difference?
Yeah, so black bears are the smallest of the three. In Utah, where I'm currently based, our typical weight range is anywhere from like 100 pounds, 400 pounds. Average would be like mid 200s.
Mm-hmm.
People out on the East Coast, they're going to be a bit bigger. And then people like up in Alaska or British Columbia, they're going to be significantly bigger, like around 500 to 600 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Grizzly bears weigh again from like 300 pounds to 1,500 pounds.
Holy
so there's a
cow.
huge, based on where they are. The really big ones are the coastal ones that feed on salmon and have like really rich, abundant food sources. Polar bears are the big three. Again, they top out around 15 pounds, more of like an average, more normal that you could see. That's not their average, but it's very rare to see a 1,500-pound grizzly bear. Not rare to see that. So they are the biggest. In all three species, they have a large sexual dimorphism. So the males are much bigger than the females. They're almost twice as big.
Sorry about my bird's bells.
Oh, no, don't worry.
It's probably super annoying. I have a falcon that's new since the last time we spoke, and he's got bells on him.
What kind of falcon?
He's a peregrine prairie falcon hybrid.
Cool. I think I saw a photo on your Instagram. He's very cute.
Yeah, he's been super fun. Audio's cutting out. Chat, what can I do about that? Your audio is cutting out sometimes, like a little bit. Yeah.
Let me try turning my phone. Sometimes when my phone's sitting on the bottom, for some reason, it does that.
Okay, well that looks better anyway. So,
okay, cool.
So we'll see if that helps things.
Yeah.
Bug tipped $7.07, and then Ronson tipped $30, which got us over our 1K mark. So we're at $1,027.07, and this sounds and looks better. So great, I'm glad that we did that.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And you have done work with polar bears. What were you doing You were doing something this morning with polar bears.
Yes, so I worked with a group called Polar Bears International.
Yes.
And tomorrow is actually International Polar Bear Day.
That's awesome.
So they had a panel with like 500 or 600 school kids all around the country, and I got to be one of their experts on that panel.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
How fun.
Yeah, it was great.
All right. So there's polar bears. Lots of... Is it scary working with bears? Things like that. We've talked about that. Max asked, what are some of the many common myths about bears that people get wrong?
Let me think. There's a lot. I mean, one of them that we've already talked about is that they're man eaters and bloodthirsty, and they're really not even the most, aggressive, which is grizzly bears. They really don't want to mess with us. They would rather just avoid us. Um, Another myth that's kind of a myth but kind of true is that bears are hibernators. They do. I mean, it's not wrong to say they hibernate. A lot of bear scientists will say they hibernate,
Mm-hmm.
but actual hibernation looks more like if you're a ground squirrel or something and you're hibernating, you're right on the verge of death. Like your body slows down to such a level that it takes them a really long time to come out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas bears, metabolism slows down, they recycle waste, they do all of that kind of hibernation stuff, but they can come out of it very quickly. So it's kind of this middle ground. I don't know. I'm trying to think. It's so hard for me to think of myths. But
That's
if
a good
anyone
one.
thinks of one out there, just comment it and I'll try and answer it.
Yeah, cool. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
This is not really related to what we're talking about, but I just really quickly this guy said that he rescued an opossum after a hurricane. Should he keep it or should he release it or find a wildlife rehab center around you? Definitely don't keep it. Sorry, just wanted to tell him that. Okay. So another question. Jolly asked, why do bears stand up? Are they getting ready to attack?
Typically when bears stand up, they're just getting a better vantage point. So it could be that they're getting ready to attack because you surprised them and they're standing up to see what you are. And then when they figure out you're too close, they're going to attack you.
Mm.
But it's really just them trying to get a better vantage point and check out their surroundings.
Got it. Cool. That was a good question, though. Chat, if
Yeah.
you have any things that you think are myths about bears, you can put them in the chat, and I'll try to read them out if I see it. Or you can do it with the bot. That's fine, too. Okay, I think we heard about this a little bit in the video, and you may have talked about it at the beginning, but Dig asked, what is your education background?
Yeah, so I did an undergrad in biology, and then I went and got my master's in wildlife conservation with the emphasis in bear conservation. My master's took me 4 years, which is a little extreme for a master's degree, but I worked on a lot of different projects, and bear projects do tend to take a while longer to collect the kind of data you need. So yeah, I graduated with my master's, and I'm currently thinking about doing a PhD, but not sure if I'm going to or not.
Nice. That's a big commitment. It's a lot of work.
It is, yeah. It's a lot more school, but I do enjoy the kind of flexibility that you get when you're doing research in academia.
Right. We tipped 7 and Rodney with 5, so at $1,039. Thank you. One of the myths that people were typing in chat is if they eat honey.
They do. Yeah, I actually, I'll tell you guys a funny story. So when I first started catching bears for my black bear project, we were having a really hard time trapping them. And what we used were called culvert traps. So it's essentially like a big barrel that has some bait on one end, and we use this really nasty rancid meat. And then the bear goes in and there's a trigger, and from the trigger we would hang like candy or bacon or whatever, and the bear initially smells the meat, goes in the trap, sees this bag of candy, pulls on it, and that triggers the door to close. And we were having a really hard time catching bears, and we started just one day we were brainstorming. It was me and my brother, and we're just like, how can we make this more enticing to them? And my brother just kind of jokingly was like, let's put some honey on it. And we smeared that bag with honey. And the next day we caught our first bear.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So they really do love it. And once I actually was trying to, we had a sedated female and she had some cubs around. And we were throwing sticks out with honey to see if these cubs would come in. And they did. And they came like right in and were following this honey. And then I let them kind of eat some of the honey while their mom was waking up, which was an interesting day as well.
That's so sweet. Yeah, they do. Yeah. I worked at a zoo that had 2 black bears, and one of the bears, he definitely trained the keepers into this, but the only way that they could get him into the switch to clean his enclosure was with a pudding cup.
Yeah, honestly, like, they love anything sweet.
Yeah.
For them, it's just like they can either spend 10 hours eating berries or, 15 seconds eating some honey, and it's kind of the same. They're getting the same amount of calories from those things.
Yeah. Grid said, tell us more about your work with polar bears. a lot of exclamation points.
Yeah, perfect. I worked in the North Slope of Alaska, so it's up on Prudhoe Bay. It's as far north as you can go in Alaska. And what I was looking at was how oil industry might be disturbing polar bears, specifically bears in their dens. So with polar bears, it's only the pregnant females that den or hibernate. Uh, and they'll dig a snow den and it snows over top of them so you can't see their dens. And the oil industry is very active up there. And they're, doing their machinery and God knows what all around these areas. And unfortunately, sometimes they end up disturbing polar bear denning habitat.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was looking at how much they were disturbing bears based on like the size of the machinery that they were using. And what we found is that bears were most disturbed by aircraft and by really large machinery that got too close to their dens, which seems very logical, but it wasn't anything that had been done. And having that actually in a paper and out in that kind of scientific literature helped the managers be able to impose stricter rules on the oil companies.
Got it. Very cool. And then, Bug tipped another $1 and said, forgot to ask, where is the best place to safely see wild bears that won't bankrupt me?
Well, if you're in the West, the best places are Yellowstone and Glacier National Park.
Mm-hmm.
Yosemite is pretty good too, but Yosemite can be such a nightmare to get around that I usually say Yellowstone or Glacier. If you go to Yellowstone, the Hayden Valley, Tower Junction, Lamar Valley are the three places where I always see bears when I go there. If you go to Glacier, the Many Glacier part of the park is a very good place to see bears as well.
Got it. Cool. Thank you for the $20 donation. Hey, what's up? Okay, and then let's see, more questions. So someone asked, we've talked a little bit in terms of size, and I pulled up some pictures, but another Grizz asked, what's the difference between a grizzly bear and a brown bear? One of my favorite things about following you on Instagram is your on your stories, you're like, I do the bear thing. It's become very fun for me. You like post a picture and you have to guess what species of bear it is, and they all look similar sometimes.
Yeah, the bear identification can be really tricky. But as far as that question goes, they're the same thing. Brown bear, grizzly bear, that name is interchangeable. Grizzly bear is just a nickname we have for brown bears in North America. Anywhere else in the world, they call that species brown bear. Mm-hmm. It's Ursus arctos. I really wish we didn't use colors for bear names because they can be really misleading. You can have brown black bears, you can have black brown bears. But follow my Instagram. What Maya was saying, I do these bear quizzes on there, and I kind of tell you how you can tell them apart. And that's a good way to learn
for sure
what you're seeing out in the wild.
Yeah, you guys can do command guest if you wanna follow him on Instagram, and then you can get to his Twitter as well through my last tweet. Okay. There are some questions about your thoughts about how bears are portrayed in the media. One of these specifically, Sketty asked, what are your thoughts on the Grizzly Man documentary? I don't know that I've seen it.
Yeah. I've seen that one. So that documentary is about this guy, Timothy Treadwell, who he lived in Alaska and was like trying to live with the bears to save them.
Oh.
He wasn't a biologist. He was kind of like a little bit crazy, to be honest. And after 13 years of doing that, one of the bears finally decided to eat it.
I did. Okay. I do recall, but I don't think I've seen that documentary itself.
Yeah, it's a Werner Herzog documentary. And I met Werner a couple of years ago and we got to talk about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like super interesting guy. But as far as Timothy's concerned, I respect his passion. I respect the fact that he thought he was helping an animal, but ultimately he wasn't, and he ended up killing a few of those bears because they had to put them down because they fed on him. So it's a really tragic story. Like no one wins. So
right. How does that work? The what's the protocol for euthanasia in a situation like that?
In most cases, if a bear feeds on someone, they typically will kill that bear.
Mm-hmm.
But not always. Like a few years ago in Yellowstone, there was a guy who was hiking off trail in an area where they had signs warning about a mother with cubs. and he ended up getting killed, and the bears did feed on him, and they didn't kill those bears because the guy had just kind of he had thrown every precaution to the wind. And to be honest, like, that probably should have been the case with Timothy too,
Right.
because he was living with those bears.
Yeah.
But it yeah, for some reason they decided they needed to take out that bear, and they did.
This is the guy with the girlfriend that was out there with him.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
She was killed as well. Unfortunately, I had to look at all their autopsy photos, and they are pretty gnarly. It's a really, really bad way to go.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
My bird is not usually
he liked that answer.
He's really not usually this loud. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on.
It's fine. It doesn't bug me at all.
Okay, great. Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Similar question. So Space said, speaking about animal attacks, what are your thoughts on Shark Week and the glorification of shark attacks in series like that?
Yeah, I grew up loving sharks. They were probably my favorite animal. I thought I could be a shark when I grew up until I was like 6 years old.
Oh, dang.
So yeah, like when people would ask me, what do you want to be? I would say a shark. I absolutely love them. I think they're like the most beautiful, graceful animals on this planet. I have a really hard time with Shark Week because even though they've made big strides in kind of highlighting more of the conservation stuff, they always have to have a couple shows that are just all, blood and guts.
Right.
And that may sound hypocritical because I host a podcast on animal attacks, but I think that in a lot of those shows, they don't do a good job of explaining this is an animal that's behaving in a natural way, they're predators,
right,
and we are potential prey. And I think that's great. I think that's like, we're part of that system. And I think that's beautiful. And it's so rare that these things happen. Like, millions and millions and millions of people are going into the ocean every single day. And we have a tiny handful of shark attacks that happen.
Right.
And yeah, so I think they handle it poorly. I do. And I hope that we do a better job on the podcast. And I think we do.
Oh, you absolutely do. I can tell you that for sure. I've listened to it.
Thank you. They're very nuanced things, and there's a lot that goes into them. And you know what? If there's one group of animals that we talk about on the podcast that has been demonized and persecuted, it's sharks.
For sure.
We're losing 100 million sharks a year, which is just unreal.
Yeah. Red tip $10, thank you. And asked, this may be a dumb question, but how does he feel about them putting bears down for attacking people?
It's usually a liability issue, and it's usually that the whatever management organization, whether it's like Fish and Wildlife or whoever, they know that if a bear kills someone and they leave that bear and it kills someone else, they're open to a lot of lawsuits and problems. So I don't love it. Like, I love bears more than anything. So it obviously breaks my heart, but I get why they do it. So yeah, it's one of those just really sticky kind of realities of life in 2021.
Right. But Red, thank you for that question. That's a good question.
Yeah.
And then Vit tipped $135. I'm sorry, I thought it was $1.35. So I didn't really react to it, but that's a crazy donation.
That's amazing.
So $1,210.57. Thank you so much.
Honestly, gonna help us so much.
That's awesome. I'm so glad. If you ever need help with tech stuff, don't ask me because I don't know anything, but I do have a production team that knows a lot. So just let me know.
Thank you.
Okay, so EE asked, have you ever worked with panda bears before?
I haven't. I really, really want to, but I haven't.
All right, there are a couple questions about pandas, so any of those, there's your answer. Yeah. Sorry.
I know a lot about them, but I haven't worked with them.
All right, if I see another one, I will bring it up. Smart Gaming, this is an interesting question, said, what is the most amazing thing you have ever seen a bear do?
The most amazing thing I've ever seen a bear do?
It's a hard question.
You know what? You guys probably maybe saw a video of this, but this fall, there was a bear in Yellowstone that killed like a full-size bull elk in the middle of the river and then dragged it up on shore and fed on it for like 10 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they don't typically take a big bull elk like that. They'll take a lot of calves, They'll occasionally take a cow, but to take a big bull is like, that's a big deal for a grizzly bear. And I got to go up there and watch it feed on this elk, and that was really cool. I don't know if that's the most amazing thing I've personally seen. Like, just watching a black bear climb a tree is really, really amazing. And I've seen a grizzly kill an elk in a river before, like a calf. But yeah, maybe the bull elk. Yeah, it might be that.
That's crazy. I just pulled up a picture.
Yeah.
Those are massive. That's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
You mentioned climbing trees. Schlepp asked, is climbing up a tree always a bad idea? I've never heard of that. I would imagine that's a bad idea, but do you want to address that?
Yeah, it is. Okay. It's a last case kind of thing.
All right.
If you don't have bear spray and you're being attacked by a grizzly bear, maybe. With a black bear, they're such amazing climbers that it's like the worst thing you could do. Grizzly bears can climb too, though, and once you're in a tree with a bear, like, you don't have any other kind of options. You know, you've really backed yourself into a corner.
For sure.
So I would never do it personally.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Big Man Outdoors rated the channel with 862 viewers. Thank you so much. He does really cool content outside. He's like building log cabins in Montana. I don't know how he gets service like that, but you may find some of this interesting.
Yeah.
Steel tip $35. Thank you. We're at $1,252.92, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, see another movie that I have not seen. But one Pikachu asked, how accurate is the bear scene from The Revenant? Have you seen it?
I knew it was going to be that movie
Okay.
before you even started saying it. It's incredibly accurate. It's probably the most accurate bear attack scene I've ever seen in a movie. If you haven't seen it, like, the main guy, the historical name is Hugh Glass. It's Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie.
This is when he sleeps in the horse?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I could have said that better, but yeah.
It's a great movie. He surprises a mama grizzly with some cubs, and she does what I was talking about earlier, where she's neutralizing a threat.
Mm-hmm.
She attacks him, mauls him real good, rips him up really bad, neutralizes him, starts to leave, and then he kind of crawls over and trying to get his gun, and she comes back and hits him again because she realizes, oh, this threat I thought I neutralized is not neutralized. And then she does like a lot of the like worst damage in that second attack.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a typical thing. Like, they're just trying to make sure you're not a threat anymore, and then they're typically out of there.
Got it.
But unfortunately, that can kill you just that little bit.
All right. Well, good question then.
Yeah.
Fu, thank you for the $10 donation. So there were a couple questions that had that movie title in it, so that's good to know.
Yeah. It's a great movie.
Good. This is a big one. So G-Wall said, thoughts on bears trained for the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I don't know personally the people that have trained like Bart and some of those other bears that are pretty famous for movies. I do know they do a really good job with their bears. Typically those bears come from some situation where the cubs were orphaned and they can't be released back into the wild, or maybe there's no zoo that necessarily wants to take them, so a private handler will take them. I think they serve a purpose. I think if the person is doing a good job at minimizing the risk of them hurting anyone and giving them the right kind of enclosure and enrichment and everything, then it's okay. There's definitely people that don't do it well, and then in that case, I think it's terrible. But the people that do it well do a good job.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to think of. There's so many great questions.
Yeah.
So many, and we got about 10 minutes.
I love talking about bears.
Good, because we were really, really talking about bears here. Jell asked, what is the biggest danger to bears in the wild?
In the wild, so is that like, would you say that's not counting like human dangers?
Let's count human dangers, because I think that's important to talk about. Because someone else also asked about like bear traps and stuff like that. So
yeah, so it's humans then. We, whether it's direct hunting or habitat loss or trapping, like you just mentioned, humans are really, the number one source of mortality for bears. I would probably say though that out of all the direct human causes of mortality for bears, it's vehicle strikes that are probably number one.
Jeez.
And then hunting's up there too. I don't have the numbers on. It really depends on where you are, but those are the two main things that humans do to kill bears. And then there's obviously like bigger picture things like habitat destruction, climate change, and those things are ultimately going to be the huge problem for bears.
Okay. I had never thought about vehicle strikes with bears before.
Yeah, it happens quite a bit.
That would be devastating for both sides, I imagine.
Both. Yeah, it's not a great animal to hit with your car.
Jeez. A couple questions have been asked about the grizzly polar bear hybrid. If you've ever seen one, what you think about that? What is that?
Yeah, growler bears. They call them growler bears or sometimes pizzly bears.
That's what I saw someone say pizzly. I had never seen that before.
Yeah, growler's more used. They hybridize. It's happening as things warm up. We're seeing more brown bears or grizzly bears move north.
Mm-hmm.
They're sharing more space with polar bears, especially on whale carcasses. And typically it's a male grizzly, a female polar, and it's a pretty aggressive thing. It's not like consensual, I guess,
sure.
as far as like how you want to discuss animal sex, but
mm-hmm.
it's not. It's the male grizzly essentially forcing the female polar bear, and then they have these hybrids, which we really don't know much about because it's happened very, very, very rarely.
Okay.
Yep.
Pulled up a couple pictures there. We did talk about that a little bit on the last podcast, I remember.
Yeah.
Cactus tip $20. Thank you. Okay, well, let's do like two more questions and then I'll work on closing up here.
Yeah. And one thing really quick, if
sure.
you don't mind if I mention.
Please, yeah.
On the podcast, like, I don't want you guys to think it's just bears. We've done everything from like hippos, sharks, pythons. We had like these two horrifying stories of people sitting on toilets and getting chomped by pythons. Both of them were men, and both of them got bit exactly where you wouldn't want to get bit. And just like some really crazy animal stories that aren't just bears, just so you know.
Right. That podcast, seriously, guys, I know like you're here with me now, so it seems like I'm just saying it because you're here, but it really is a good podcast. It's like funny.
Thank you.
It feels like you're chilling, like sitting there with them talking about it. It's really good. So go check it out. But yeah, that's the thing. All these questions are about bears. I was hoping for more of other species, but this is a good question, and I think this is obvious for people that watch my channel frequently, but I think it's important to address anyway. Is XM said, what do you think of having bears as pets? Thinking of the Our Big Bear Family YouTube video. I'm not familiar with that YouTube video, but
yeah, I'm not familiar with it either. One of my colleagues is this guy named Casey Anderson. He essentially took a bear in. He's a wildlife rehabilitator, but him and this bear shared like a pretty special, almost like owner-pet bond.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the facility for it, and they learned a lot from that bear, and he used it for research, and he used it for outreach, and he kind of did all the right things that someone would do with a bear as a pet. But I wouldn't recommend it for anyone else. He was a wildlife biologist. He knew what he was doing. I think it's a pretty bad idea for anyone else to have him as a pet.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then Leon asked, have you ever seen an albino bear?
I've never seen an albino, and also there's like sometimes people, when they're talking about albinos, they're thinking of those spirit bears, which are it's a genetic recessive black bear. And I've never seen one of those either. I got real close, and they're all white, but they're not albino. But hopefully soon.
Let me look that up so they can.
Yeah, spirit bears, or they're also called Kermode bears.
Oh, I see. Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have about 5 minutes left here. Let's lots of bear questions. I appreciate all the bear questions. I hope we covered a lot of those generally. But so for your podcast, for the people, because now we're at 3.2K people. So there's some people that weren't here when we were talking about the premise. Do you want to just repeat like what the podcast is about, why they should listen, or why you created it?
Totally. So the podcast is about animal attacks, but it's from the perspective of an animal expert, which I have my master's in human wildlife conflict. So it's me talking about why these attacks happen, what people can do better to prepare themselves, prevent an attack. And then we also talk about the story, and we go through the whole story and tell the entire narrative, get to the kind of juicy, gory parts that people like to hear, but it's not sensationalizing. It's not demonizing. It's more based on animal behavior and the things that usually the person is doing wrong to trigger that animal to act the way that it did.
Right.
And it's called Tooth and Claw.
Nice. And it's you and your brother and your producer.
Yep.
Right?
Me, my brother, and my producer, they kind of just serve as like the everyman to ask questions and kind of ask what the audience would ask had they been there. And then they're also like both super funny, or at least I think they are.
I think they're funny also.
Yeah,
it's funny because
yeah,
your producer is a good person to bounce off of because he doesn't seem like the outdoorsy type.
Yeah, he's not at all. And then Jeff, my little brother, just kind of sounds like he's high all the time.
He does.
Yeah. So, which he's not. That's just his voice.
Yeah.
But it's working really well, and I'm actually surprised at the response that we've had so far, and it's been really great.
Good. Yo tipped $10, so we're at $1,307.92. Yeah, it's called the Tooth and Claw Podcast. You can do Command Org to be taken to their Instagram, and you can get to all listening platforms through that social. So there you go for the podcast. Then the last question that I'll ask, because we talked so much about bears, if these people that are watching today, if they're not a biologist, if they're not doing field work, what can they do to support the conservation of bears as a normal person?
Yeah, I've got two answers for that. Mm-hmm. There's like the more kind of practical one, which is what you guys are doing today, honestly, like, and with a lot of Maya's podcasts, like just supporting with your money, with whatever kind of resources you can come up with. That's so important. Like sometimes the smallest amount of money can go the longest distance with wildlife researchers. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my projects have been funded through private donations. So that's like such a huge way you can support. And then the more kind of ethereal, almost, in my opinion, more important way is learn as much as you can about bears. Go out in the wild and try and see them, safely, of course, but form a relationship with them, form a relationship with the wilderness, and then you start to actually really care about it. And that is what makes you passionate. That's what makes you make personal changes in your own life and, educate people and do whatever you can to pass that message along. And having that connection is so important. So that's kind of what I always tell people is if you don't have the means to contribute directly, just form that relationship with the wilderness and you'll figure out a way to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll add to that, you guys that are here that aren't able to donate or don't want to donate to this podcast, that's totally fine. You being here and learning is super important too. So getting to teach other people in your circle and then just going outside. I like that. Just go outside and appreciate your native wildlife and all that. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're at $1,312.92. Thanks to all the people that donated today. I will give you the final amount after I do our little quiz here and close up, but I'll DM you on Instagram for it.
Okay.
But thank you so much for coming on again. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Maya.
Yeah, and
honestly, I have the best time talking to you, so it's been great.
Thanks, and best of luck with your podcast too. I will be listening.
And we're gonna put you and Hillary together.
Oh my gosh, please. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Okay.
I'll talk to you soon.
Great. All right, we'll see you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Yay! He's so cool. He's such a fun guest, man. He's got so much cool experience. Thank you guys so much for all those donations today. I feel like this happened the last time we talked to Wes too, because he's such an interesting person. And I know this is how the podcast is formatted, but I feel like I'm just like drilling him with questions, it's like so fast because there's so many good questions. But he seemed to be okay with it. So that was great. Quiz time. Let's see. Did I tell Chuck that the quiz was yes? Let's go, Chuck. All right, I will wait on that from him. Creator dashboard. What do you guys think? Hi, Erica. He's great. Loved it. Really fun. Good. Good, good. Create and edit quiz. Dodd with the $3.08. Thank you to even it out. Love that. $1,316. Guys, I am sorry for Orion. He's very jingly today. I got the grommet tool today from in the mail, so I'm gonna grommet his outdoor enclosure so he can go out there today for the first time. Hopefully today. If not today, then definitely tomorrow. I sent it 6 minutes ago. Sorry, I have a bunch of Discord messages. Thank you, Chuck. Okay. Amazing. Chuck, top notch. Okay. We do this really fast now because Chuck's a god. Import questions. Upload CSV. Downloads. Quiz 58. Success. Imported 5 questions. Food, thank you for the $14. My dude! What is going on today? You gotta chill with the bells, man. You really do. It's very distracting. Okay. All right. Confirm questions. So the way that the quiz works is 5 questions, 20 seconds per question. It's all based on my conversation with... It's all based on my conversation with Wes today. So if you win the quiz and you're not already subbed to my channel, I will gift you a sub to my channel. If you are already subbed, you get a gifted sub to any channel on Twitch, or you can ask me to donate an additional $5 to Tooth and Claw today. Holy cow. I'm not bothered by the bells on stream, at least. That's good. I'm glad. Also, I do want to mention, if you're here and you're like new to watching this podcast, because I know that this podcast has grown. A few months ago, maybe not a few months ago, but I know in California, I was scared about doing the podcast because I was scared that I was going to average under 1,000 viewers doing it. So if you're here and you're relatively new to the podcast, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot. This is like my baby on Twitch, besides Alveus, obviously, but this is like where all that started. It's the inspiration for it. What's up, Mitch? So I really appreciate you being here. It's really cool to see new folks. Ton, thank you for the $7. All right, here we go. Some of the answers for this question appear to be duplicates. Way to go, Chuck. Wait, what is going on? Oh. Yeah, Chuck, you can't do the same answer for, That's okay, though. Not a big deal. All right, here we go. Wrong Mitch people. No, not Mitch Jones. Mitchington. That's what's up. Go to start quiz. Are you guys ready? I will try to read the questions before they're read out. So make sure you enable access. Orion. Make sure you enable access in order to participate in the quiz and for me to be able to see your username. Here we go. You can do command quiz if you need more instructions on how to do that on the device that you're on. You can do it on mobile, you can do it on your PC. Apparently doing it on mobile is cheating, but it's not actually cheating. The first question is, what is Wes's favorite bear? Again, he said this was really hard for him to decide. So it's kind of a tough question. But is it a grizzly bear, a black bear, a polar bear, or a sloth bear? 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Did you hear that? Doorbell. Ding dong. Dink dog. Sloth. Sloth bear is the correct answer to this question. No? Oh, well, the doorbell rang. We looked up pictures of sloth bears. They're so cute. They're so cute. So cool. Unfortunately exploited by the entertainment industry. I guess we talked about on our last podcast the concept of dancing bears. If you want to look that up, you can. It's pretty gruesome. 152 people got that correct. Warber is in the lead for this one. So Warber's at the top right now. It may be glitching. If you are showing up as contestant number whatever and you enabled access, I'm sorry, that's out of my control. The second question is, what was the first bear Wes did field work on? A black bear, a panda bear, a grizzly bear, or a polar bear? It fixes itself on the fifth question. Okay, cool, that's good to know. So keep participating in the quiz because you could still win, even if it's not showing your name right now. So just, if you're new here, typing the question in, or typing the answer in chat is not how you participate in the quiz. That won't do anything for you. You have to use the actual pop-up click on the quiz. The correct answer is polar bear, the only carnivorous bear. 60 people got that right. Is that right? I actually don't recall the answer to this question. Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. Well, you guys got you baited because we talked about black bears a lot, and I showed field pictures of him with black bears. Super Wattman got that question right the fastest, and then Melty. Wow. Look at that leaderboard. That is looking... All right. I can tell you Botox is in 9th, and that's about it. The next question is, which bear should you play dead for to stop an attack? Again, this is like situational, but is it a polar bear, a grizzly bear, a black bear, or a panda bear? Two, 1, 0. Hill House, thank you for the $20. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm like debating with those bells, man. I want to have him on for flying because it really is, in the field, it's really nice for him to have bells on because not only do I know where he is, like, if I don't like have a line of sight, but it helps me with my timing when he's coming into the lure. I cannot remove them when he's not flying. No way. 'Cause I don't trust myself to tie him on properly or tie him on like really well and then having to like take them off because they'll fall off. And those are not just like craft store bells. They're like expensive. They're two-tone bells. 412 people got that correct. Grizzly bear is the right answer. Johnny, what's up? Ding donk. Thank you for the $20. Nice. A lot of people got that right. G-Wall got that right the fastest, and then Riz, who is probably still timed out. Side Ramen is in the lead though somehow in 3rd place. Then the next question is, what is the biggest reason for animal attacks according to Wes? Is it because the animals are mean animals? Because of human error? No reason, just happens. Unlucky. Conch, thank you for the 365. Never lucky. $1,380.65. The correct answer is human error. Not using precautions. Encroaching. Not reading animal behavior. Human error is the correct answer. 544 people getting that right. Well done. Who got it right the fastest? Chat? Perp. Perp got it right the fastest. All right. Side Ramen is still in the lead with 79K. Well done. All right, the last question is, what is Wes's favorite part about being a conservation biologist? Or wildlife biologist? Dealing with data, poop, cleaning up poop, field work, or nothing. He hates it. He doesn't like what he does. Last one. These are some high-level questions, Chuck. Yeah, Chuck, well done. This is a good quiz. No, it actually is fine. It's a good quiz. Thank you for the Twitch Prime. Thank you if you subbed throughout this podcast. I've seen your subs. I just don't read them out so that I don't interrupt my guests, but I do appreciate them. Thank you. The correct answer is field work, but he did mention if you're going to go into wildlife biology that you will be doing more office work than you expect, and field work is his favorite part, but seems like it's more of a treat type thing to be able to interact with species. Final results. What the heck? I guess he was one of the contestants and now it's showing up. Tipsy Nomad, congratulations. That is a fantastic score. 44 people said poop, okay. Tipsy, what would you like? Where are you? Donate, you got it. You got it, dude. All right. Tipping? 2-factor? Hold. Sorry, Stod. All right. $1,385.65. That's awesome. I also appreciate you guys being understanding of this not necessarily being an organization that we're contributing to, but I really do believe in what Wes is doing. That podcast, and I'll repeat myself again. When I found out about the podcast, I was a little bit worried because I was like, I hate the, not to call out Shark Week, but I hate that vibe of making people scared of animals, and scared of wildlife. But when I listened to it, I immediately was like, okay, he's doing a great job. And I knew he would because, he's great. We've had him on the podcast before. But it is a really good podcast. Go check it out. It's like a fun listen to. It's not like dense. It's not like Tipsy, thank you for the $114. It's an easy listen is what I mean. Tipsy, thank you. Tipsy rounded us up to $1,500. Thank you so much. You're so generous on the podcast for Alveus and on my stream as a whole. Thank you so much. All right. So I think that's it for today. If Wes actually connects me to Hillary Hankey, I'm gonna throw up. She's like my bird god. I don't know if I've talked to you guys about Avian Behavior International, but I listen to all their podcasts and they're amazing. And Paige Davis, you guys probably know, or Python Page. The that video of like, wait, ravens can talk type thing. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of you probably know what I'm talking about. Some of you don't. That's okay. Conch, thank you for the 365, making it not even again, but that's okay. Today, can you link her? Yeah, I can. Oh, thank you for reminding me because I wanted to link something else as well. I almost linked Hillary Duff. It's not what I want to link. This is her. Her name's Hillary Hankey. Anyway, so I wanted to link something else, and that is, thank you for the 5, this article. And this is not, it's not in particular related to what we talked about today. But I really, really like this article, and I'll probably talk about it on stream next time. But if you want to read it, I retweeted it today. We talk about climate change affecting a lot of the species that we talk about on this podcast. But climate change is such a huge issue, and it's really hard for me. I mean, I'm not a biologist, you know, and it's hard for me to understand some of the things that I read about climate change, but this article makes it super, super easy, and it's like a 5 to 10 minute read. So if you want to check this out, if you want to know more about the steps that we need to take to mitigate climate change and to handle that problem, Milky, thank you for the 145. It's a good read. So just wanted to put that out there for you. I'll probably talk about it next time I'm live, which will be tomorrow for the Housewives podcast. Echo with $20. Thank you so much. What mic are you using right now? Your voice is so clear. You can do command mic, but I will be honest, this mic fell in a bathtub a few months ago, so I'm getting a new one. Anyway, I will be live tomorrow for the podcast. We're going to start a little later. I think Cutie wants to start at 8 p.m. CT, and we're asking Brittany if she wants to come on, but I don't think we've gotten a confirmation from her yet. But I think that she'll be down because she's been streaming. So Milena wants to get... Milena, it's still the podcast. Milena wants to drink because we've had quite a week. So... come back for that podcast tomorrow. I will let you know if you're here for the conservation podcast. It is a very different type of podcast, but I would still love to see you. So that'll be tomorrow night. Today, Matt's got his spelling bee, so OTK has that spelling bee, which will be really cool. I don't think we're doing a Fireball Friday, but I'm not going on the spelling bee. But I'll still be like around. So you'll see me tonight on Matt's stream, then you'll see me tomorrow for the podcast, then I'll be live on Sunday again for a sponsored stream, Simple Mobile. So I'll see you for that. I'm going to go grommet Orion's enclosure so I can put them outside. And then I'm going to go ship some auction items because we all finally got our... Will, thank you for the 13. We got our... negative COVID test yesterday, so everyone in the house is all clear, which is crazy, but very lucky. I am gonna go ahead and raid... You know what? I'm gonna raid Andy. Actually... yeah, I'm going to raid Andy because I'm doing the sponsor stream with him this weekend. Because he's Simple Mobile as well. I always misspell his last name. I got to get this bird outside. So I'm going to go. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for donating. Thank you for supporting my podcast and Wes's podcast. Go check it out. Again, you can do Command Org if you want to get there. It's called Tooth and Claw. It's really good. It's on Spotify. Good, like, car listen, good, you know, morning listen, whatever. So, good stuff. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to play my outro, and I will see you guys tomorrow on my stream, tonight on Matt's stream, in the evening. Okay. Stinger. Okay, bye.
You guys are amazing.
Twitch is an untapped reservoir for doing good. This is those of you who donate, thank you so much. It means the world to me, and it means the world to those guests. It's still really important that you're here and that you're watching, and that's amazing.